Hey, let me ask you again. Keep it up. Destiny, cause we are. Let's see what we got here. I'm always eating. Sorry, guys. It's not up to you. It's not up to me. Let's see what we got here. Over there, yo. And it smells good. Lexi. Nope. It's not up to you. And it's not to me. Why do you always give me ketchup? I don't use ketchup. Cause we are the stars. Just cut you next. Be mine. Woo! It's good. Hello? Nobody invited you. Destiny. Look, rice. Um, nope. Over there. I always get the hiccups. Oh, they give me a big ass wing. This shit looks good. You know you want me. You know you. Alright, I'm good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. My baby's good. Happy Easter. Monday. Alexa, no. Don't you think coming over here. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I appreciate it. That's good. You do anything for Easter? Easter Sunday? Yesterday, me, I was watching WWE, WrestleMania 41. Disappointed that Cody Rhodes lost, but but can you do it? It is not up to you. What is this junk? Let me see what they sent me from my insurance company, my health insurance. And if they send it to me in Spanish, I'm gonna yell. Let's see. Let's see. Yep, they did. What the fuck? Why they keep sending me this shit in Spanish? The fucking insurance company are fucking stupid. Like I read Spanish. Thank you, I appreciate it. Trying to get monetized. How you doing, God? Is number one. Yep, he is. He is number one. And I'm number two. God is number one. Amen. Wait, I'm from New York. Well, that's cool. I like the face emoji. Hi, Matthew. How you doing? Hello, 1967. How you doing today? Long time no see. How you been? Thank you for liking. It helps the algorithm. I'm doing fried chicken, rice, and performance. That's free. Trying to get 500 and 1,000. Totone is fried plant. Totone is Are you waiting for your woman? That's cool. Hi, hi, Alyssa. It's so sunny. That's good. Not here. It looks like it's gonna rain. Where I'm at in New York City. I'm here to 5 minutes to 8 o'clock. Then I'm watch Raw, and I'll be back afterwards. But I need people to stay with me as well. They're like my glasses. Look. Thank you. I appreciate it. People say, "Oh, you too old to watch wrestling." I grew up with that, and I'll die watching that. Yeah, I got them a couple of years ago. I still have them. They're still in good condition. What the hell? So, As long as they work and I can still see, why not? Right? I'm not gonna spend money another $600 on glasses. Well, glasses are expensive. Very expensive. I'm gonna smoke some weed because my back hurts. $600 for a pair. Yep. If I was rich, if I had money, like if I had a lot of money, it's expensive because it's Gucci. And guess how much they paid to make them? Only $10. They cost them $10-15 just to make them. So imagine you paid 10. Because they make all this is made in China. So what's up, Matthew? If they only charge $10-15, I could get it directly to them and cost less. But they don't sell it like that. Subscribe. Yeah, people subscribe. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for subscriptions. Subscribe and stay as long as possible. Hi, Sean B. It's sad that the Pope passed away. I'm not Catholic or nothing, but my family is, and they follow the Pope. And I found out how he died. He had a stroke this morning. Wow. If I would have had a stroke, I probably would have survived because I'm young and I'm not 88 years old. Yeah, Sean B is a cool peep. Say hi to Sean B, everyone. Sean B is a good mod. He's one of the best mods. I know him for years. I met him on another channel. He's one of the best mods. Not only mod, he's a great person. So. Yeah, so this. Yeah, I suffer very bad back pain. On one Wednesday, what is it? Wednesday, I get an MRI in my neck. So the 20-30 minutes it'll be hectic because they put you in this machine, and I don't know if anybody ever here had an MRI. Put 1. If you didn't, put 2. But my MRI is this when they put you in there, it's like a closing casket, and it's uncomfortable because especially when you suffer from back pain. Thank you. I'm flattered. Because my mom was watching it. My mother grew up Catholic, so that's why she was following it on the news. That's why I was over there earlier, so that's the only reason I know about it. But otherwise, I would not know. Yeah, please sub. Yeah, so but that's what they give it today, and they also give it the trial of what's her name? Lori Vallow. But they keep repeating. They keep repeating the what's the call it? The closing arguments. I haven't listened to it because I'm listening to it later tonight on a chat on another live stream. So yeah, I don't want to watch it. I understand. I understood what you said, Sean B. So it was crazy. And what's 15 days from now? How? Yeah, they have to pick another pope within 15 days. That's what my mom was telling me, or somebody that else that I know. Oh, the jury, but it says the jury deliberations has begun. How long ago did it start? That's what I want to know. Sean B, have you been following the cult mom conspiracy trial today or no? Are you waiting to Rich talks about it? Cult mom. Did they just start now or that's what I'm asking. Or ask Karen Lee, tell her to come on this channel. Let me text her on Discord. I have her information. Can you text her on X? Or send her a text or a message? Yeah, we need 1,000 or more. The more subscribers, the better for me. I want to get the plaque, so I need 100,000. I'm on my way there, little by little. Not in the best for it though. Karen Lee. Nope. Don't tell me she deleted her. Sometimes people delete their Discord. I hope she wasn't one of them. I'm also on TikTok, guys, so you can follow me on TikTok. Same name. So, because if TikTok's not banned, I'm gonna be going there live there too as well. So, I'm monetized there. So, I need 1,000 subscribers. Technically, to get monetized, like to get so there's two ways: 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours, and you could get like I'll read. Let me go to YouTube. I'll show you right now. Let me explain to you. I think Sean B will be a good YouTuber too. And I definitely will follow you if you decide to do it one day. So it says here, right now I have 455. Let me go right now. So you go here and you got to go to earn. So right now, there's two ways. So it says here, you need 500 subscribers plus 3 videos uploaded within 90 days. And one of the following: 3,000 hours, which in 1 year, or 3 million and 3,000 hours, or 3 million public watch views. Most likely I get the 3,000 hours. And no spamming, please. And you'll be able to get like and you'll get like memberships and stuff like that, but not memberships only. But if you want super chats and stuff, you have to be fully monetized, which is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. But then you need or 10 million within 90 days. Nobody's trying to get the 10 million thing. So that 4,000 is much easier. And I'm halfway with the 1,000, so. Then you apply and it tells you if you are monetized. The thing is, every time I go live, right? If there's people here, there have to be like a couple people here. And it adds up. Yeah, I know you're still here. Let's say there's like 10, 15, 20 people. And I'm still and I go on for 4 hours. If those people are here consistently, those hours add up. And I can get monetized faster. But if there's only one person here, that one person has to be 4,000 hours. As long as I keep that 1,000, as long as I keep that 1,000 views, not 1,000 subscribers, I'm good. I'm eating rice and chicken. I'm coming back tomorrow. All right, I'll be here. Well, I might go live later again, so. This is what they look. They took a pic. So they took a picture of me. And I had my hair messed up that day. And. Whew. Date issue 6. And look. I look fucked up. Yeah, I did. So basically, this is my New York City Transit Access A ride. So basically, this is like so I could travel, like, cause I can't really go up and down stairs. They give me an access a ride so I can take it like, it's like public transportation, but it's like I take a cab, or like a big bus, and drive you around. That's like it's like $1.50 for a cab, and I gotta call a day before if I want to go anywhere in the 5 boroughs, which is a good deal, like, cause I have back problems and stuff, so it helps. It could be anywhere. It could be a doctor's appointment. If I want to go to the casino and I want to go, I'll call the day before. And I'll be, look, I want take me to the casino. They'll take me, and then but I have to book 2 trips, one to go and one to come back home. You know, it makes sense. But you got to do it the day before. Hopefully one day they'll have an option you could do it the same day, but right now they don't have that option. Which sucks, but what can you do, right? Where's my lighter? Did you see Destiny? Yeah, I had a good Easter. It was WrestleMania Sunday, because WrestleMania is now 2 days since the pandemic. And are you good? I'm sorry you're in the hospital. You didn't break any bones or nothing, right? Oh, you saying you waiting for your girlfriend? How long you gotta stay in the hospital, brother? Thank you, Sean B. I hope you heal, bro. I hope you feel better. That sucks. Getting hit by a car. Or a van. At least you here, bro. Like, thank God. I'm happy you still alive. I pray for you. I hope you heal. Ooh, your leg. Ooh. Wow, that sucks. When this happened? Yesterday or today? Oh, how long you staying in the hospital? Wow, that sucks. I hope you feel better soon. That sucks. You should sue. You won't get much, but something's better than nothing. Yeah. Thank God I never broken a bone. I was close though. You didn't get his license plate? That sucks. That fucking sucks. When you don't get somebody to drive a plate. That pisses me off. I hope they find him and he gets arrested. Even if it was an accident, which it sounds like it, like you don't need to. Because if it's an accident, you don't need to run away. But it sounds like it was an accident. Also, you could, if you have a camera, you should be able to get his license plate and give it to the police, have his ass arrested, and and also sue him, get his information, because you could have been killed. Lucky you wasn't, but you could have. That's good. That's good. You got a camera on a motorcycle. You smart. Will we get a verdict today? I don't think so. Or in Arizona, they're 3 hours behind, so maybe. That's right, they 3 hours behind. I forgot the Arizona time. All right. Take it to the police. Oh. Make sure you make a copy so when you sue. Oh, good. You smart. You could have died or you could have lost both your limbs. Thank God you didn't. It could have turned out worse. Oh, I know. I'm happy you still have your legs, but you could have died. People need to learn. People need to learn how to drive in here in the United States.
We went home. She said, yes, they went back for maybe 5 to 10 minutes and then came out to go home for the day. So I'm guessing that they probably very briefly chose.
You're there for 4 weeks,
woman
about a
and
month.
then
Wow.
took off for the day. That was a lot of information to absorb.
Oh, they deliberating tomorrow, Sean
Closing
B.
argument was very well laid out. She had
Megan
full
Connor,
PowerPoint presentation.
her
She rephrased
cousin was in the courtroom.
testimony during the
I'm
trial.
listening to her now on
And then,
YouTube.
It was just a lot. It was a lot of information to absorb. So, from what I understand, multiple sources are reporting that the jurors have gone home for the day. So, I believe this verdict clock over here at Law and Crime may be just a ruse for them to keep their 11,000 watchers hanging on. So, I'm hoping that that we're not wrong. I've checked in multiple different places about this, and I want to say I believe that the full jury has gone home. Now, I also want to mention that after the jury was excused, the judge asked Trina K about the state proceeding with the aggravation phase of the trial, and I just wanted to let you know that basically the aggravation phase is a time where Trina K, the state, can produce evidence, or they can produce factors.
But she hasn't been convicted
that would
yet.
warrant a stronger sentence for the defendant. And there are several aggravating factors that have to be present in order for them to consider this harsher punishment for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. So this is interesting because we've been told before by the state that even if there's a guilty verdict here, they're not going to sentence until after the Brandon Boudreaux trial is over, and then they will sentence concurrently, regardless of what the verdict is in that trial as well. So I don't know if the aggravation phase will happen immediately.
Also, they're not gonna sentence until her next trial is over. That's bullshit. If she's convicted, because she could be. I won't be surprised if the jury comes back and says not guilty.
So basically, if she's found guilty, then the prosecution will present evidence of the aggravating factors, which can include things like the crime was particularly heinous or cruel or depraved. They can say that the defendant committed multiple crimes or has a history of criminal behavior. It'll be interesting to know if they can, now that if she is convicted,
if that's a big if.
Guilty, it'll be interesting to know if they can bring in her other convictions. They can also say if the crime was motivated by financial gain or other malicious intent, which in this case, we know that that's what the state has argued. And then the victim themselves
was a minibus.
Vulnerable, or the crime had a significant impact on others, like family members, for example. JJ Tiley Colby losing their dad there. So in this particular case, they might emphasize premeditation, financial motive, etc., and then the religious beliefs. And then the defense can present mitigating factors to counter that of the state, such as a lack of criminal history. Well, you know that's not going to come in. Mental health issues. Well, we know Lori doesn't want mental health to come in. Evidence of remorse.
If I have mental health issues, I don't want that shit to come in. I'm not trying to do life.
Cooperated with everything in the case, but there is no evidence of remorse so far. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they will talk about these aggravating factors in this phase, or if they'll wait until the end of the next trial. And which jury it's going to be, this jury or the other jury, that's going to be the one that determines her sentence and whether or not the aggravating factors will come into play in the sentencing. So yes, there will be a completely new jury for the Brandon Boudreaux trial. They've already talked about sending out those jury questionnaires somewhere around the 21st of May.
Wow.
So I just wanted to sort of recap that before I get back into digging into the closing arguments. So for those of you who have already watched them, this is obviously going to be a repeat, and thanks Tim Rathbone for that encouragement. But for those of you who didn't watch the recap, or didn't watch the actual arguments, or didn't want to dig into it, this is going to be just as my.
Will you be surprised, Sean B, if they come back when not guilty?
As much as I could. I do have the video up so that I can play certain things for you, because there are a couple of places where I want to play things that Trina K referenced in her closing. And yes, Jody Parker, the judge ultimately determines her sentence, but the jury gets to consider whether there are aggravating factors. And so they either get to determine, yes, there were aggravating factors, or no, there weren't. So thank you for this. Mimi of 8, that court TV said the jury went home and court will be back at 10:30 tomorrow. I'm going to read
this one around Lord,
because that's
the one I'm talking about. I know you forgot the Lori Daybell
the schedule of deliberation. So it'll be interesting to know if they're going to come back any earlier. You can make sure to watch my channel. I will have a live stream programmed for the time that they're going to begin deliberations. I generally will start about 15 minutes earlier than the delayed time. So for example, if they're starting at 10:30, we won't get the feed until 11 Arizona time, but I'll start at about 10:45 just to do some recaps, answer a few questions before the feed starts. Now, if all they're going to do is deliberate tomorrow and we're on verdict watch, then most likely I will just replay some things from the trial while we chat here. And also I might bring in some guests who can come in and comment. I'd love to have Pressure back a little bit in comments. I'd love to have Joe Schmo, who is
even more than some. If they deliver some past tomorrow, you knock the off.
John DeLynn from Mormon Stories and have him talk about the Mormon angle. So Maria Howard asks about 5-minute delay. That doesn't happen until the actual verdict is played. So once the jury comes back into the courtroom and says we have a verdict, that feed will be on a 5-minute delay. But we're on a 30-minute delay continuously until they come back and they say they've got a verdict. So now to get back into, to go to Trina K's closing argument. She did an excellent job. She had a PowerPoint presentation there for the jurors with sort of timelines, recaps.
I'm not playing it because Richard will play later on. That's why. That was given, if it goes live, so
victim statements come in at sentencing, and then I want to show a couple of clips of what Trina showed the jury, what Trina K showed the jury. I feel like it's weird for me to call her by her first name. I have met her, I've spoken with her, but I'm not that familiar with her, so I always want to say the prosecutor, or I want to say her full name.
Because she has to see her cousin get
Trina K began her
get prosecuted
by saying everyone knew about this crime. She references the text to Chad Daybell 5 days after.
Like I can't see a family. My family personally, if my family member committed crime, I can't see them go to trial.
It was a spear to her heart. This text we've heard many, many times. And Trina K notes that Chad Daybell and the money were the motive.
I would do it, but it'd be too much.
And then 7 days later, she sends a text to Alex Cox talking about the life insurance again. And the text says, maybe it was Ned before we got rid of him. And the we was Lori and Alex. Then she talked about Adam. Adam knew of her beliefs. He knew that Lori was saying that Charles was possessed by this evil spirit. Then she talked about the awkward dinner before the murder, where Alex Cox was talking to Lori's friends, including Christina.
Where's the proof that was
he just wanted to
happening?
kill
Because I've never heard proof.
And at that dinner, that Lori Vallow admitted that she was drugging Charles Vallow, and that there seems to be no recognition of remorse or no recognition that anything that they were doing was wrong.
Well, they
Then
were
Trina K
drugging.
brings up the testimony of Nancy Jo Hancock, telling Charles to, why don't you just tell Lori Vallow that you changed the beneficiary for the life insurance money?
No.
Then Trina K brings up the be like Nephi concept and that text. So she sort of recaps it. And then she tells the jury, I want to break this up into 3 sections for you. I want to talk about the timeline and the motives and the evidence. And then secondly, I want to talk about the jury instructions and the evidence that applies to those instructions, talking specifically about the law. And she says what Lori Vallow said in her opening statement was not evidence. Her comments are not evidence, and she did not present the evidence that she promised to present.
She doesn't have to present evidence, though.
And then finally, she wants to talk about the justifications and the defenses that Lori made to try and say, this was self-defense, this was justified. So in this first part, in the timeline, she is very clear to say the execution of Charles Vallow. They began planning this back in June when Charles found the famous KK Walker email, June 29th or 30th. That email changed everything about the way that Lori and Chad talked to each other, and it changed everything about the way that Charles began to think of Lori.
Wow.
On the 9th of July, that's the first time that we know that Charles is coming back to Arizona after moving to Houston. And at 1:13 p.m. that day, the flight was booked for Adam to come and join him there. And at 1:21, Adam calls Alex to ask if he can stay there. Then this sort of clears up a little bit. The question that so many people have been asking is that how did Lori and Alex find out about the intervention? And there's been a lot of speculation about how this came about. I addressed this in the conversation that I had with Kresha K last
subscribe
Friday.
to me. Thank you.
That video is out there. But basically, Lori told Chad that there was going to be an intervention. I think what happened, me personally, what I get out of all of this is that when Adam called Alex to tell Alex that he was coming into town and asked to stay with him, I think Alex put 2 and 2 together because Alex already knew that Charles was coming into town. I'm sure that Alex and Lori had a conversation about it. This is when Lori sent the text of, it's all coming to a head. I'm going to need you to stay close. That's when that happened. So Lori texted and called Chad and started to round up the troops, how to get everybody together. All of those texts between her co-conspirators, Summer, Melanie, trying to say that Charles is coming into town, Adam is coming into town, and we know she believed that there was going to be some kind of intervention. I think Adam spoke about having a family dinner to talk to Lori about her beliefs. And I think that everybody sort of in that little circle determined that was an intervention. And that's what's going to happen. So that was Lori's word, intervention. I believe she was the one who came up with that word to describe what was going to happen. Summer gave Lori an out. She said, stay at my house. Why don't you just go there and pretend like, you're not even there. Nobody will know you're at my house. You don't even have to worry about it. And she didn't take that out. And then Alex came to stay at her house with a gun, and I thought this was hilarious, and a garbage bag full of underwear. And that was basically how she referred to Alex. And that really was what it was. He brought a duffel bag with a box that was not locked. It had a loaded gun in it. It had extra magazines and ammunition in it.
Wow.
And that was all contained neatly in a duffel bag. And then there was also this random garbage bag of clothes that Alex brought over. And I love that Trina K characterized that as a garbage bag full of underwear. Then on the 11th, Lori Vallow starts very early in the morning talking with Chad. And then this is where Trina K shows the timeline to the jury. So I want to see if we can get a glimpse of this here, what Trina K showed to the jury, because I think it's really important that they got to see this. From my years in the classroom, I can tell you that the research shows that when you hear something, you listen to it, you can absorb about 80% of it, depending on how long that lesson is. But if you see something and hear something, for example, if you put a visual up on the screen, like Trina K did here, and you put visuals and audio along with your lecture, that time increases to about 90% retention after 45 minutes. And what is difficult is that Trina K went on for a lot longer than that. About an hour and a half, if I remember correctly. Does anybody have an exact time?
Nope.
I don't know exactly. I think this is the correct thing. So yeah, these guys over here at Law and Crime are still showing the verdict watch, which I think is kind of funny. So this is what got shown to the jury. This is part of it. The whole timeline of the July 11th. Yeah, an hour and 45. That is a long time. She said it was going to be about an hour. It was an hour and 5. So we see this timeline, July 11th, and she actually started out earlier than that. This must be like the second slide that she had there, because she starts out by saying, Adam sent a text to Charles Vallow around 7.
What happened? Oh boy. I think that shit happened.
7:48 in the morning, and it was read around 12:13 p.m. after Charles had already been shot.
Take a break from me.
Then Lori Vallow takes JJ to school, but keeps Charles's phone. Oh no, sorry. Rewind. Lori Vallow says to Charles, when Charles gets to the house, Lori says, "Why don't you just take JJ to school?" But she keeps his phone, which keeps him there for 12 minutes. And she's going to refer to this 12 minutes over and over. This is really important. Lori says in her interview with Detective Inclan that Charles was being jerky. I don't remember her using that specific word. I'll have to go back and look.
What the hell is jerky?
For that 12 minutes, she says that Charles is yelling and screaming at her, chasing her around. Why didn't she just give the phone back? And then after Charles's phone leaves the residence, there are 2 phone calls between Alex and Lori at 7:52 and at 8:06 in the morning. And with all of those cell phones around, Alex had a phone, Lori had 2 phones, Lori had Charles's phone. Nobody called 911. Nobody.
They should have. They should have called 911. I would have.
47 minutes go by.
That's a long time.
47 minutes go by. While Charles lay dying on the floor, we know that he was still alive and able to move, at least for a little while, because he put his hand to the wound on his chest.
47 minutes or over an hour.
But for 47 minutes, nobody called 911. Then at 12:36, which is where this timeline here starts.
So he could have survived if they would have called 911.
Alex's phone, Lori's phone, and Charles's phone are at Alex's house in Santan. At 12:39, Lori calls Chad Daybell. This lasts a minute and 46 seconds. At 2:07, Detective Inclan calls Lori and leaves a message. At 2:13, Alex takes photos of Charles Vallow's cell phone. Trina K says this is why Lori didn't call him back or call Detective Inclan back right away, is because they were busy taking pictures of the phone and calling Chad Daybell. At 2:18, Lori finally calls the Valley of the Sun mortuary, just hours after Charles is shot. That is just damning to me. Then at 2:28, Chad calls Lori.
What's going on with her
11
channel?
minutes and 13 seconds. And then finally, at 3:11, Lori, Alex, and Tylee return to the Four Peaks house to give Detective Inclan Charles Vallow's phone. And they provide his PIN at that time. I'm really glad she showed this timeline. And I know she showed timelines throughout the entire closing argument. I'm just going to check my settings real quick because I think I have the wrong. I do. I've got the wrong thing going on. Hey, give me 1 second. I just want to see if I can improve the audio quality here real quick.
Get ready to roll some weed.
And if I'm going to share video, it won't work unless I change this setting. So thanks for being patient with me while I figure this out.
Because it's not up to you, and not up to me.
Okay. I don't know if that.
We are the stars.
Or not. I'm hoping that it did, because I'm hoping that makes the audio quality any better. Calling the mortuary is stunning information because it's just hours after Charles was shot and killed. It's not like they waited any time. His body was still laying on the floor in the house. He hadn't even been taken away by the medical examiner yet.
Well, that's not good.
And to me, that's stunning, because usually what happens is the death happens and you take care of all the business with the police and the medical examiner. And then once the medical examiner has completed the autopsy, then maybe is a good time to call the mortuary.
Can you hear the video, guys?
Figure out what you're going to do next. I would think, I mean, I don't know. Fortunately, I'm so fortunate that I haven't had to be in that position. So maybe other people would have done it differently. And then, yes, Chad called the funeral home that day as well. Same funeral home, by the way. I think just called later than Lori did. And I don't know why we don't have a recording of Lori calling the mortuary. But yes, they didn't call any family. You call family first. You notify the family first. Like, that's the first thing that you do.
People are weird.
The first thing that you do is you take care of your loved ones, right? And then you start making arrangements. So anyway, that's why that was stunning to me. Then Trina K moved on to the motives, and she talked about how it was money and how she used this religious belief system and being like Nephi. Then Trina K played the recording of Lori calling the Banner Life Insurance Company just a few days after the death of Charles. And what was stunning to me about that call is when the insurance agent or the person on the phone asks Lori, how did he die? There's a super long pause, long seconds of pauses. And then she says, well, he was shot. It takes her a long time to come up with this response. And then they didn't play this part, but the agent asks her if it was an accident or not. And she kind of fumbles around her words. I will talk about Lori's closing argument after I talk about Trina K's, and we will talk about how she thinks that her statements got twisted. It doesn't concern me that the jury didn't deliberate very long tonight, just because they have an earful today. This was a lot to go through. And yeah, I agree with you that for a minute I thought she was going to do the money, sex, and power thing, but she kind of did. She did mention the money first, and she did mention the religious belief system, and then she mentioned being with Chad Daybell. And then I'm going to go back to this video because the next thing that we are shown that the jury sees is a summary of text messages that went back and forth. And I want to see what was highlighted in that. So I'll go back and share this as well. She notes that the affair with Chad Daybell is a big part of the motive here. And the text messages, it's kind of hard to read them because we're looking at a camera shot of an overhead projector. So I was trying to see if I could see which ones they referenced, but it was the text exchange between Lori Vallow and the Chad Daybell number that was called Bubby. And if you remember in one of my recaps, I referenced that Lori and Summer often referred to their brothers as Bubby.
Who's Bubby?
And this was just another bit of subterfuge to try so that if anybody saw her texting somebody named Bubby, they wouldn't think anything of it. Whereas if she put his actual name, they would say, who is this Chad Daybell person? Then Trina K referenced that Lori knew a month before she went to her appointment in the Social Security office that she knew how much money she was going to be getting because of that text. And I think this is what was on the video. Because of the text where she said, we still get the $4,000 from Social Security. That was before she went to the Social Security office to make an application. She already knew how much she was going to get.
I don't even get half.
Sorry, I'm getting some good vibes from friends over here. And a reminder that I'm going to be on Hidden True Crime tonight at 10 p.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern Time. And I made that appointment a couple weeks ago and then thought it was last week. So if I get a chance to interview jurors, I would absolutely love to. As some of you know, Tom Evans was a juror on Lori's first trial. He and I have become good friends along with his wife, Susan. And I would love to talk to some more of these jurors and at the very least, thank them for their service and for what they have gone through and will go through.
Sorry, guys.
Some fallout for them mental health wise. It had to have been really, really traumatic. So then Trina K says that Lori was so angry about this change that she sends a copy of the beneficiary change form to Chad Daybell and then to Kay Woodcock with some threatening texts accompanying. Then the next thing that Trina K shows on the screen, or that we see, the next thing that we see for the jurors is a sort of a timeline of Lori's affair with Chad Daybell. And I'm going to see if I can find it here really quickly to show it to you.
Sorry.
The next thing that I see here is about the religious beliefs, but I'm going to go through real quick and see if they show it. They had some technical difficulties at one point here.
Well, that's not good.
Okay, so the next thing that they show to the jury here is Adam's testimony. But what I'm going to do, so yeah, I am going to be on Web Sleuths tonight. I usually do I have a playlist on my channel called, I think it's called Daybell Case Interviews with other people's interviews, and they're all there. So I am going on tonight, and you can always watch those on the replay, but I will post the link on my channel so that you can go and watch it whenever you're ready to. So I want to share this screen real quick because Trina K brings in, let me see if I can change. the layout here so that you can see a little better. There we go. Trina K brings in some of Adam's testimony, talking about Lori's twisted religious beliefs.
That's not hearsay?
But I want to go back just for 1 second, because while Trina K was talking about Chad Daybell and the timeline for their affair, she mentioned Lori hasn't worked in 13 years. Her husband paid for phones, homes, travel, so she could go to the temple and go out to lunch with her friends. And if that goes away, it signifies a big change in her lifestyle. Did I say Hidden True Crime? I meant to say Web Sleuths. Definitely it's Web Sleuths tonight, not Hidden True Crime. And so this big change in her lifestyle necessitated some financial benefit, and that's why she was looking so forward to that life insurance policy coming through. Then she goes to Adam and his testimony about the translation of Lori, and she plays some of that for the jury again. Lori told Adam she was turning into a celestial being. Lori told Adam she didn't need to eat. Lori told Adam that she had more priesthood authority than the priesthood in the church. She was above this.
What?
And I just want to say, somebody was asking in the chat, and it was much too long for me to respond, why is it that Lori brought in the religious aspect of it, and why did she use religion to justify what she wanted to do with Chad Daybell? And I will just say, I think that partly the reason she brought religion into it is because that was a way of pulling her family in and keeping them close. If she had just come to her family and said, you know what, Charles is having an affair, and Charles is being rude to me, he's being mean to me, he's fighting with Tylee, and I want to divorce him, you know, there might have been some division there. Janice might have said to her, you need to stand by your man. You made this commitment. You've been divorced already. You know, you and Charles were in the temple together. You need to stay with him. There might have been some blowback. But the second that she says, God told me, can't argue with that. God told me to do this. Well, I can't argue with somebody else's personal witness. If I pray to God and I get an answer that I'm supposed to sell my house, people can't really come back and say, what are you thinking? You know, the market's terrible right now. You're not going to be able to get as much money out of it. They would just say, this is how this is in the Mormon religion. When you get a revelation that you're supposed to do something, make a big decision, do whatever it is. If you say, I've prayed about it, I've fasted, I've been to the temple, I really feel that God is telling me to go in this direction, then people's response is more likely to be, okay, God will help you figure it out.
Wow.
But if Lori went to her family and said, Charles needs to die, probably there's going to be some pushback there. Although, seeing the way that they talked about Joe Ryan and the way that Lori said that the world was a better place without Joe Ryan, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, yeah, he'd be a good, you know, the world would be a better place without that abuser on the earth. So anyway, it's just my theory that, you know, when a Mormon comes and says, I prayed about this, God has told me, God has revealed this to me, it sort of keeps her family pulled into supporting her rather than pushing back on her. They're much less likely to push back on her. Then the next thing that Trina K brings into her closing is Serena Sharp's testimony about the beliefs that Lori is talking about not being mainstream LDS. Her not needing to repent, for example, her being a translated being, and saying that she knew everybody in this women's group from prior lives. And Trina points out, Serena Sharp has no dog in this fight. She's not a victim in this case. She doesn't have a reason to tell these stories if they're not true. And so just lending credibility to Serena Sharp, she came here willingly to testify against Lori, not because she has any kind of vindictive nature or because she wants to lie, just that she believes this is right. Then Trina K does a really good job about describing the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. And she gives this analogy of being on an island. And I don't honestly remember, and maybe Irish Jen, you can lend some credibility or some I don't know, context to this. This is one of the points where I checked out. I had to do some deep breathing because I was just thinking about all these family dynamics, and it was starting to get me stressed. So I checked out for the island.
It's not okay to kill anybody for any reason.
Of, if you're on an island and you see something happens, I don't know exactly what the analogy was, but I can give you an analogy here. Okay, so if you're on an island and lightning strikes a tree and the tree burns down, you can bring a picture of the tree beforehand, you can bring a picture of the tree afterwards, and you can bring evidence of the charred remains of the tree, and that's direct evidence. Indirect evidence would be, I was sitting there and I saw lightning strike the tree and I saw it burning, right? And so that's a good, yes, thank you, Piano Mom. If someone walks by, you witness it. If you see the footprints, they were there. So that difference between direct evidence and circumstantial evidence. And I thought that was great for Trina to clear that up for everybody. More of a Leslie, always good to see you here on the channel. This was a tragedy, but the fatal flaw was not seeing the danger through their love of Lori and their inherent goodness. Lori is the tragedy. Yeah, I think the fatal flaw was not holding Lori accountable earlier on for some of her manipulative behaviors. That's what I would have liked to see. So thank you for that super sticker, Amor Valesi. I appreciate it. And yes, I think Lori's turning to the darkest parts of her personality and not healing her own emotional wounds, turning into the type of person who needs to manipulate and control rather than relating in healthy ways. Her inability to be introspective about her own behavior, her inability to care about how her behaviors and beliefs affected other people, that is the tragedy that caused all of these tragedies. I'm starring just a couple of comments, and I have a gnat here because the dangers of traveling. I bought some mangoes before I left for Arizona last time, and when I came back, they were not ripe anymore. They were rotten.
Ew.
And now I have some fruit flies flying around my house. Yes, I've tried the vinegar in a glass trick, and I have a little bug zapper in there taking care of them, but I've got a couple still left over. So sorry for the sidetrack there. So then Trina K goes on and she says, the state has the burden of proof. You have to be firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt. The evidence does not have to overcome every doubt. It has to overcome a reasonable doubt. In other words, a reasonable person could say, this is plausible, and it has overcome that level of doubt. The state must prove that the defendant caused the death, or that the co-conspirators caused the death. And we know that Alex Cox shot Charles Vallow. We know that he called 911, and we know that he told police that he was a shooter. So check, we proved that one. The state must prove that the words and actions of the defendants led to the crime being committed. In other words, Lori inviting Alex Cox to her house with a gun when Charles Vallow was going to be there at the same time, and then taking his phone, refusing to give it back. Lori Vallow is the only reason Charles Vallow stayed and was shot. And for 12 minutes, Lori said this was a quick thing. She says that it wasn't a big deal. It was a quick fight, but it was 12 minutes between the time he entered the house and the time his phone left the property. That was long enough to think things through. It was long enough to set this series of events into motion. Then Trina K reiterates, when Lori Vallow comes back to the scene, she never asks if Alex is okay. He's been hit in the head with a bat. She never asks about his well-being. She never asks about Charles's well-being. What happened? She says, I was there, or I heard the shot and then I left. When she comes back, she doesn't even want to know, did he survive? Then Trina talks about the money and Chad Daybell. That this crime happened the first time Charles Vallow came back to Arizona. Then she talks about the definition of premeditation. It has to include planning, not that it just happened that morning. And she notes again, they were planning this since back in June at the latest. And then we have the testimony of Serena Sharp saying that when Alex said he just wanted to kill Charles, that he was jocular. I thought the choice of that word was really interesting. I've only heard it a couple of times from older people who have a more, I don't know, an older vocabulary that's used, you know, in times before I was really aware of such words. The jocularity of someone just being casual and joking and thinking it was sort of funny. This is where Alex always was, just kind of joking about everything. And so one who had been around Alex a lot might think that Alex was making a joke.
All right.
But for someone
Enjoy
who had
your sleep.
previously
I'm getting
committed
off in
violence
5 minutes
against
anyways.
one of Lori's romantic partners, for someone like that to joke about killing Charles, that he just wanted to kill Charles, is pretty problematic. And I'm sure it would be received as, you know, sometimes you can tell when someone's telling a joke, especially if you know them really well. But if someone is joking about, man, I just wish I could kill Charles, that to me, that's weird. That's not something that I would be okay with somebody joking about. Then she reiterated, Charles Vallow is her cash car, her car, her cell phone, her rent, her vacations, her travel were all paid for by Charles Vallow. She needed something to replace that income. And then she refers to Lori's team. She talks about Janice and Summer and Melanie and how they all rallied around Lori and how they helped her to isolate Charles and how they informed her of what Adam and Zach were doing that day. Then Lori's comments that she was above the priesthood, that she and Chad could tell who was light and dark, and that she and Chad could tell who needed to die. Then she noted Alex didn't bring anything to try and stop this intervention. He didn't bring a Book of Mormon, he brought a gun. And then again, she notes 12 minutes went by. In addition, there were 2 shots, not just one, and the second one was Charles Vallow laying on the floor, on his back, bleeding out, able to move because he put his hand to his chest wound, and that he was executed. She used that word twice. Then she talks about premeditation and reflection. Alex had enough time to reflect about his actions. He had enough time to leave the altercation, to go to his room and get the gun and bring it back. Alex said, and this is me, this is not Trina K saying this, but when Alex was sitting on the curb, he says to the officer that he went to his room, he got the gun, he came back out, and he said, "What are you doing?" To me, that pause tells me Charles isn't coming at him with a bat. There's no immediate threat right in front of him. Alex had time to make a comment to Charles before he shot Charles. To me, that shows there was time enough for him to reflect.
Ooh.
Trina says he had to move and reposition the gun, and that is premeditated first-degree murder. She referenced the medical examiner's report. There was no t-shirt that could have shored up this wound. The medical examiner said Charles Vallow did not bounce, but there were abrasions on his knees, suggesting that he fell to his knees and that his body would have had to been moved or repositioned at some point. But that second shot clearly showed that he was laying on his back. He was shot for the second time. So she asked the jury to consider the words the actions, the motives, and the physical evidence that point to the fact that this was premeditated murder. Then she talked a little bit about the conspiracy. You have to find that the defendant agreed that they would engage in certain conduct with the other person. Sorry, just something caught my eye that I wanted to star. She said there was no damage to the mirror. The bat was placed on Charles's right side. You heard the testimony and she played it of Kay saying that Charles was left-handed. There was not one drop of blood on the floor, not in the hallway, not in the main room, not on the gun itself, as Alex returned the gun
People
to his
just
room.
leaving already and stop.
Then she makes a reference to the shoes that were left by the front door. When I saw the crime scene photos, I thought that those were Charles Ballow's flip-flops that were left by the front door, but it seems like Trina Kay is mentioning that Lori said that she left the shoes, or that there were Lori's shoes left by the front door, saying that she ran out of the house without shoes. But then in the Walgreens video, she clearly does have shoes on. And there were some people in the chat that basically said, hey, we did this. We were the super sleuths who pointed out that she was wearing shoes in that Walgreens video. And
All right,
I don't know
Sean
if
B.
that's the
Bye,
case. I don't
everyone.
know
I'll
if
talk to you
Trina
guys
knew
later.
that before people came out all over the internet
Thank you for joining
saying
us.
that Lori was wearing shoes in that Walgreens video or not. But